welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're looking at part 4 of our Gateway to Gold series, the topic being Team Finland. So obviously Finland is a team that kind of is contending every year. They're really a dark horse team. Most people kind of count them out early and then they end up starting to battle and they start to become more and more of a favorite. But in general, I think this team definitely does have what it takes to win a gold medal. I'm not sure they're necessarily the favorites. But the truth is that they never really are. The one thing I think that they will struggle with is their defense. Obviously not really comparing up to some of the better teams, Sweden, US, Canada, and even Russia for that matter. So I think that's kind of where they'll start to fail. And they do have some pretty solid forwards, so I think they will be pretty good in terms of that. And then goaltending is obviously, their goaltending is pretty solid. So in general, I think Finland definitely has a shot, and I think anything kind of short of a bronze medal, I think they should shoot for that bronze medal. I'm not sure they'll make it to the gold medal. If they do, I think silver is quite good for them, so I think they should shoot for the bronze medal, and anything better of that's really just a sweetener. So we take a look now at the depth chart for the Finnish team. So in left wing they have Lehkonen, Kiravanta, Hintz, and Vesalainen. So obviously nothing crazy in terms of left wingers, although I will be looking to see a lot of these right wingers. They are quite loaded in terms of right wingers to play their offside. And some of them already do, but in general I think they'll need quite a bit of contribution from the left wingers from the right wingers rather, to help play that left side, because if they're going to use all those guys, I don't think they have as much of a shot as if they can use some of those right wingers. Moving on to the centers, we have Granland, Holla, you got Barkov, Aho, Lamiko, you got Borgstrom, and you got Komarov, and then from the KHL, you got Hartikainen. So obviously the KHL's guys are kind of where you want to be in terms of Finnish teams. Their leagues aren't the greatest out there in Finland, so in general most of the best Finns either go to the NHL or they go to play in Russia. So I think Hartikainen won't necessarily be in the lineup, although he is a pretty solid player. He might kind of be that 13th, 14th forward that they're allowed to bring, but in general I don't really see him playing. But that being said, the Finnish team does kind of like having players that don't play in the NHL beyond their Olympic team, so we'll kind of have to see where they want to go there. But other than that, they do have some pretty solid centers. They're pretty loaded up the middle, so I'm kind of curious to see how they want to play it out in terms of that. So now we'll take a look at the right wings. So obviously, as I said, they are quite loaded in terms of the right wingers. So they have Donskoy, Armia, Rantanen, Kapanen, Puljujärvi, Laine, Kako, and Teravainen. So obviously quite a star-studded list, and I think that with that they're going to need some contributions from the right side to play the left side. I think without a doubt they don't necessarily have the depth on the left wing, so if they can get those right wingers over, I think they do have a very solid shot at contending for gold. But as I said, I'm not sure they'll win it, but they definitely do have a pretty solid shot. Moving on to the defense, so on the left side they got Lindell, Lehtinen, you got Olimata, Mikkola, Heiskanen, and Heinola. So overall, lefties are pretty solid, but of course nothing crazy. They do have Heiskanen, so I do look for him to be a big kind of contributor. And then for the right winger, or right D rather, they got Ristolainen, Hakanpää, you got Nudivara, Niku, and then from the KHL you got Kaskas. So I think with Kaskas, I'm not entirely sure he'll make the team. But I think he might be that kind of 7th, 8th D. That's kind of only there if they get injured or whatever reason where they need kind of a special player. I think Kaskas might be the guy that would kind of step in, being that 7th D, and I think he'll kind of play the right side. So I think he'll kind of be the 4th right D on the team, but I'm not sure if necessarily he'll make the starting lineup. Moving on to the goalies, you got Antti Ranta, Mikko Koskinen, Kevin Lankinen, Korpisalo, and Koskinen. So once again, their goalies are really solid. I don't see them having any issues in terms of that. But in general, I think that their big downfall, if they do have a downfall, will be their defense. So if they can figure that out, I think they do have a shot, but I'm not sure that they'll have enough, especially when you put them up against a team like Canada, Sweden, US, and Russia. So in the end, I think that's kind of what they're going to look like. But now we'll take a look at the lines. So obviously, the first line, I think, without a doubt, will be Teravainen, Aho, and Rantanen. So with this line, obviously you do have Teravainen playing as off wing. I think, although that's the case, I'm not sure it's the worst thing in the world. And then obviously Teravainen and Aho do play together in Carolina, so I think bringing that chemistry over will be really important for the Finns. And I think if this line can get going, especially with the addition of Rantanen, I think this line will be an absolute killer. And I think this kind of will be their make or break line. If they can go off, I think Finland definitely has a really good if they're kind of mid pack, or if they don't play it very good, I'm not sure Finland stands much of a shot at all. Moving on to the second line, we have Laine also playing his offside with Barkov. And then finally you got Kapanen. So with this line, it's kind of everybody kind of contributes. So you got Barkov kind of playing the kind of more of the two-way game. You got Kapanen being the speed of the line, and then you got Laine with the big shot. So with this line, I think it's definitely a line that has a lot of potential. I think if they can figure it out, kind of like the top line, I think they can figure it out. This line will also be kind of that make or break line. I think if the top two lines can fire and be really good, I think for sure Finland wins gold this year. I'm not sure how well they are going to end up playing, but I think with these two lines, if they can find it and figure it out, I think without a doubt Finland will be your gold medalist. But I'm not sure that they will, because obviously you have kind of 2 weeks to figure it out before the gold medal game goes. And typically when that happens, it's hard to kind of build line chemistry. But in the end, I think they definitely do have a shot, especially if they can figure it out there. Moving on to the third line, we have Holla, Granland, and Kako. So with this line, kind of more of a defensive-minded game. I think Kako, if he does end up going, I think he'll be the kind of the goal scorer of the line. Obviously, Granland and Holla are more defensively minded. So I think in the end that this will kind of help both the top line not having to worry about that defensive minutes. I think that this third line will kind of be the defensive line. I'm not sure, especially with Teravainen and Aho Rantanen, that the third line will be scoring as many goals and more just focusing on sort of keeping the puck out of the net, especially with the defense. I'm pretty sure this line won't be scoring a heck ton of goals. Moving on to the last line, I'm going to go with Lehkonen. You have Lehkonen, you have Armia. Obviously, both these guys do play together in Puljujärvi. Obviously, these guys do play together in Montreal, Lehkonen and Armia. And then, of course, Armia isn't really a center, so that's one thing I will look for. I'm not sure that they'll put him there, although I would sort of like to see Armia play there. I could also see kind of Armia going up to the top, the third line, Kako swinging over and taking over Holla's spot, and then Holla playing fourth line center. This also makes some sense, but I kind of want to see Armia and Lehkonen play together. Obviously, they did play together in Montreal, so I think it will sort of be there. So I think that's kind of what the forward group will end up looking like. Moving on to the defense, obviously the big line, I think, without a doubt here will be Heiskanen and Ristolainen. So with this line, obviously top line, not too much surprise here, I don't think. I think if this line isn't the line, I'd be very surprised. Although I could maybe see Heiskanen or Lindell. Obviously those two guys also play together in Dallas, so maybe they'll try and pull something off. They don't necessarily play together, they're both left defensemen, so it will be something to sort of look for. I don't think this will end up being the line, but I think the Heiskanen Risk line, it makes a lot of sense, and because of that, I'm pretty sure that will be the first line. Moving on to the second line, we have Lehtonen and Nudivara. So with this line, once again, they do start to see where they start to lose in terms of depth. I'm not sure they have the same depth as some of these other teams. So I think in the end, they're going to have to outscore their opponents and just kind of hope their defense and their goaltending can hold up. But in general, this is a team that's going to be a lot of offense, not a lot of defense. They don't have it. There's going to be a lot of offensive defensemen in here, mainly to score as many goals as possible. And then finally, the last pairing of Heinola and Sami Niku. So with this line, obviously both these guys do play together in Winnipeg. So I think this is more of that kind of chemistry that I've been talking about. Obviously, it's hard to build chemistry, so whenever you can kind of form it, obviously with Lehkonen, Armia, Teravainen, and Aho. I think it does make a lot of sense to try and get those two together, mainly because they do play together in Winnipeg. So I think in the end, it makes a lot of sense for Finland to try and pair these two up. Not necessarily saying they won't go with their own leagues, Finnish league or the KHL. So I think in the end, this will kind of be what their defense is going to look like. Obviously, they aren't going to be logging a ton of minutes. I think the Heiskanen and Ristolainen line will be heavy, probably upwards of maybe 30 minutes a night if they can, because I think that they don't have the depth necessary to go long games. I think if they're going to win, they're going to win sort of 8-5 or maybe 5-2 or 5-3, and just kind of try and blow out their opponents with their offense. Although it is, of course, possible that their goalies play hot or their defense plays amazing. So we'll kind of see where that ends up going. And then finally, for their goaltending, I think it'll be Korpisalo, and Ranta. So with these guys, I mean, this is kind of what I think. I don't think they'll go. They might go Kakkonen. They might go Koskinen. I doubt they'll go Koskinen. But there's obviously a lot of goalies here that they can pick from. I think Korpisalo and Ranta do make the most sense. Not necessarily saying that that's for sure, but in the end, I think that that's for sure what they'll end up doing. I think it makes more sense than, say, the other ones. But in general, I think Finland definitely does have a shot this year. They are going to have to heavily rely on those top two lines and that top defensive pairing. And then obviously with Korpisalo and net, not much support back in Columbus when they did make some of sort of their run back in 2019 rather. And beating Tampa. So I think in the end it makes sense that Finland has a shot. I'm not sure they're going to win, but they do have a shot, and pretty much every team does. But I think Finland has kind of that dark horse mentality where no one has them as of right now, but in the end they do have a very solid shot, and I think they will be a team to watch, especially early on in the bracket play, whether or not they can sort of mend together properly. And I think if they can, they will be a very formidable force and potentially win the gold medal. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you liked it, drop a like. If you really liked it, consider subscribing. Tell your friends. Leave a comment down below your thoughts on Team Finland. Until next time, see ya.